How does Silicon Valley pivot its narrative?
Oh my God. Fund better companies. Move slower. Don't break things.
Don't break things and move fast?
Yeah.
Hey, welcome to Current Mood. This is your host, Jacqueline Schneider. Current Mood is a series exploring self-care techniques, mental models, and the core patterns propelling our increasingly digital lives. Through conversations with thought leaders across creative disciplines, I get a chance to learn about unique business paths and pivots through the lens of mental wellness. Hey, welcome back to Current Mood. Thank you for riding with us. Hope you got to enjoy season 1. We are now getting into season 2. Welcome. For our first guest, we have Natasha Mascarenhas. Natasha is an incredible reporter who started writing stories, kind of more human interest stories, and moved into the business world, and then really niched down into reporting on early stage startups and venture capital. For the last 3 years, she's been a senior reporter at TechCrunch, and she just recently announced that she was moving over to The Information, an amazing business and tech website and newsletter ecosystem, and I can't wait to see what she does next. Our conversation was so cool because, for so many reasons, but I think the biggest one is that I've admired her reporting for some time, and I've also kind of been following the tech and startup space since kind of like the beginning of my career. So we really nerded out together. We talked about everything from what is the role that she plays in her family and how that translates into her work. I asked her what her thoughts were on AI and what the value of a hot take is in the media space. It was a really cool conversation, and I really loved sitting down with Natasha. She's an amazing reporter and human, and is just, as you can hear in her voice and some of the things that she talks about, she's so passionate, and she's just great to talk to. It was super easy, and really, really enjoyed it. So hope you have fun listening to this talk. What's your role in your family? Like, what role do you take on in the family?
I'm like the earnest, like everyone should talk to each other person. My family's very like independent.
Okay.
So I'm like the let's all like say a high and low.
Me too. That's why I wondered if seems like you're just naturally like that's your gift.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly the person I am. I mean, I'm very much like everybody together now.
Right now. Do you have a big family?
No, I only have a brother and like my 2 parents.
Yeah.
My extended family and I, like, we're not like super, super close. Like I feel like my parents are like super in love and just like ride solo.
Wait, that's cute.
Yeah. And then my brother's like the sweetest, and then I'm out here, and so we're just like a 4-person.
Solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, a little quartet.
Exactly. But we also live in like the heart of Browntown, New Jersey. So
yeah.
our in not blood family is like our people all the time.
Got it.
Yeah.
Respectable. Well, thank you for coming to Current Mood.
Yes.
I have so many things I want to talk to you about.
I'm here to answer anything.
But first, can you just like tell us who you are?
Yes. I am a writer. I've like always wanted to be a writer since before I probably knew what it was. And then since 6th grade, I've wanted to at least be a journalist. And I can explain how I got there. But grew up in New Jersey, went to school in Boston, moved to San Francisco. And I've been there for the last 4 years, just writing a lot of words and talking to a lot of people and covering this weird moment in tech. But beyond that, I feel like my defining qualities are my height and me being vegetarian. Those are like my 2 things I lead with, is that I'm not tall. So that better be a superpower. So you tell me your secrets and then let's get falafel.
Wait, does that work?
I think it does. I think like Zoom was such an equalizer in a way where like no one knew how tall I was. Now I feel like I meet people. I don't think I give up intimidating vibes, and that is, like, I think really helpful in this moment in media. Yeah. I'm Natasha Mascarenhas. I'm a senior reporter at TechCrunch, and then I podcast on equity as well.
Honestly, that's one of my favorite podcasts. And my friends make fun of me, kind of, because they're like, you're such a tech nerd.
Oh, my God, I love that it's your favorite pod. And I, like yes, I get made fun of the same way, too.
I've been reading TechCrunch since I was, like, I won't date myself, but since I got into the business of storytelling. Like, I've been reading TechCrunch for over a decade.
Wow.
Like, sometimes when I used to live in the Bay, when I lived in San Francisco, I would like wake up in the morning and like that would be like the first thing I would read. That and like GigaOM.
Oh my God, yes.
And, like, VentureBeat.
Yeah. That is like such a compliment. I feel like I even feel like a fake sometimes because I like feel like I didn't know about TechCrunch until I like knew about TechCrunch.
It's kind of if you know, you know. But then once you know, you're like, oh my God, this is like the Michelin of reporting.
Oh my God.
I mean,
hear that. They'll be so happy.
It's really, it's trusted and it's like.
I think we keep optimistic too, which I think has like helped us.
Yeah.
Like I think we can always be like snarkier and spicier and like, but I think like we do not come at it from a position of like pure cynicism, and that's like honestly made it like a really fun place to work in the beginning of my like tech career. I think like, you know, it just feels like a really good place to be like starting and like spending now 3 years.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy because even though you're quote starting now, like I was looking at your kind of like resume of writing, and you've been in the media space for like a while.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, wow, were you at USA Today?
Yes, when I was in college, I was like a USA Today correspondent, which sounds so serious.
So serious. Yeah.
Which was like honestly my whole vibe for so long was like get the most serious job in the world, because if you're going to be a writer, like taking the brown parent philosophy, work for the places that everyone knows. And so it was like USA Today, Boston Globe, SF Chronicle.
Right.
And then I joined a place called Crunchbase News, and my parents were like, what have you been building toward? And then I was like, no, let me tell you.
Crunchbase is like the freaking like tipping point, like stepping stone to that whole space. Come on.
Yeah, I know.
They just don't know. If you don't know, you don't.
No, they think it's a cereal brand. And honestly, like it almost makes it more fun to be doing it because they don't entirely get it. But yeah, I've like always wanted to do this, and I feel like part of it really came like I picked my professors strategically to make sure I would get the right person to help me get the right internship, and I've always just been super like
very strategic.
Yeah, very strategic. Yeah. I do not fall into things.
What was the moment where your parents like got what you did?
Oh. I feel like there's many moments. Like one was probably like when I was at the Globe, they like understood it because I wasn't writing for, you know, an insidery audience. They understood that I was like, I profiled kind of this, I profiled this like waiter who was retiring from a pizza shop in Southie.
My God, I love this.
Yeah, and they like thought it was such a beautiful story. My parents love when I write creatively about like humans.
Right.
And so whenever I hit that mark, then they start paying attention.
Okay.
And so that was definitely like a big one. And then honestly, even like very recently, SVB, they were like, like everyone's talking about this, and I think my daughter is the one talking about it too. And so I'm like, as tech becomes more relevant, I become more relevant to them.
I mean, it's funny how I don't know if that's for you, but it's like the benchmark. It's like, I don't really give a shit what anybody else thinks. Like my parents and my family's like proud. I'm like, cool.
Oh, I love that.
Cool.
Do you feel like your parents get you? Like they get what's happening here?
I don't know. Sometimes they do. When I was working in like the music business, and I was running a record label, and we were on like, we made it to the calendar section, like front page of the LA Times.
Yep, and it's the front page that needs to be the front page of the LA Times.
It was literally the calendar, the Sunday LA Times front page.
Wow.
And they were like, oh, cool. And then it was like, after that, it was like various other things, but I've had a few different careers. So now do they get it? I think so. They're just like, you're happy.
Yeah, I think honestly at a certain point, like when parents, I mean, yeah, speaking I guess for both of our situations, it seems like parents just like once you're happy, they're like, okay. Like honestly, I think they thought that I would like not be able to like live in a city or like afford an apartment. And I feel really lucky that I'm not like underpaid. I feel like it's just not as bad. It's not as bad and sad as I thought it was. And I honestly want to tell like all the college students that too, because the way we were warned that we would barely be able to make a living.
I mean, some of these jobs out here.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the jobs. I feel like tech journalism is an anomaly.
Yeah,
honestly.
Tech anything. It's like 30% more.
Yeah.
It feels like, even the jobs.
Totally.
It's like the same exact job in tech versus music. It's literally like 30% more money.
It's crazy.
For what?
For literally what?
I don't know. It's weird. But I want to talk a little bit about you as a reporter, but you talked a little bit about how you kind of love writing about human interest stuff. Maybe more like culturally general. How does it feel now to be like pretty specialized in your trade?
I've sold it to myself, and it really has like I now am obsessed with it. Okay. Like I now am like living for Twitter Spaces about VCs reacting to other VCs. I don't know. I feel like it really like is so interesting to me.
Oh my god, tell me more. I'm off Twitter. I gave up a while ago.
Good for you.
I mean, I'm there sometimes. Like I think I liked one of your tweets earlier, but that's once a week. I'll check in and see what's happening.
I'm slowly dropping off. To be fair, but just to say, like I think eavesdropping I'm obsessed with it now. So to answer your question, the way that I like started getting excited about tech and like fell into tech was when I was at the Globe. The best editor was in the business section, and so I was like, let me like join the business section and work with this like icon.
What made this icon the best editor?
Actually, it even went earlier than that. It was like at the school paper, and her name was Felicia Gons, and she was like just super. She would sit with me like after school. We were both unpaid like college newspaper writers, and she would sit with me and go line by line on edits.
Wow! And
I was just like, that is like my love language as a reporter.
A good editor? Oh my god!
Attention, line by line, like that is amazing. And so I started working with her a lot. Then I only had clips in the business section because she was the business editor. I went to the Globe, same situation. Like the editor was amazing because he just always kind of pushed for a better angle. Like he never let me just exist, which I loved at that time.
Wow, that's crucial.
It was very crucial. I came to the SF Chronicle, and business in SF is not like the mom and pop startup. The mom and pop business. It's literally the startups.
Right.
And so I found like the common angle between all these places was like rooting for the little guy. It just depended on like the flavor of it. And basically the moment I realized that when you raise $10 million, you don't get $10 million to like spend on your own like food and rent as a founder. Like it's a lot more complicated than that. That's when I started like getting interested in it, because I was like, what are these people that seem to be like sidestepping traditional banks and traditional stability and be risky and bet their legacy on something like that? To me feels like the biggest human story of our lifetime.
Yeah.
If we can cover people who are crazy enough to start a company when there's so many reasons to just take the lazy, apathetic way in life.
Yeah. Would you ever be a founder?
No. I am the lazy, apathetic. No, I'm kidding. But I always say I don't have that muscle. I don't. I like kind of at this stage, like at 26, I feel very strongly about kind of being led instead of leading. And like leading, and I have an opinion and I will like use it and I'll fight for it, but I don't want to be alone. Like I don't want to be a lone wolf at this point.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't want to be an editor either. Like I kind of want to always be like the writer that's like asking for thoughts, not like giving the thoughts always.
Right.
As I give thoughts to you.
Yeah. I'm here. You're here for your thoughts. So that's why you're here.
The only version of being a founder I think I would be writing a book, which I think is like a founder of a book, like just being like, I'm going to create a business around my words.
Yeah.
But I won't be like starting, a VC-backed D2C company anytime soon.
What is it like branding yourself as a journalist, or do you consciously do that?
I feel like it was for so long the first thing I introduced myself as. I may have done that today too. It's slowly not the first thing I lead with anymore. I think I've become a lot healthier. I was like, I'm not like journalist first, like human second, which I really like. The way I was so insecure that I wasn't going to get a job or even be close to successful in this place, like that was all I could be for so long. Now I'm starting to be like, I'm a journalist, but I'm not like, I don't need to just be that, which is really like a nice, like, not traditional way to look at it. I feel like if you ask my journalism school professors, they're like, you are a journalist, be a journalist.
Little imposter syndrome, or you just like, it just doesn't excite you to say that?
I think it's more like I guess I don't need to prove that I'm a journalist. Like I don't know how consciously I do it.
Yeah.
But I don't think like, I feel like for a while I was like, I'm a journalist, here's why you should talk to me. I'm more like, I'm Natasha, I write about startups.
Right.
You should talk to me. It doesn't need to be like like traditional definition of like, lead with who you are. Do not let anyone know you as anything other than someone who talks on the record and publishes their stories. Like you need to be a fully kind of full person, and I feel like I try and introduce myself that way too, so people don't just think of me as like a TechCrunch reporter, which just feels weird.
It is weird. It's totally weird, and I'm sure like it kind of takes the edge off of people too when they realize like, oh, you know, because it can be intimidating, like talking to a reporter, period, but talking to a reporter from like TechCrunch, especially if you're a founder, it's like you don't say the wrong thing. Like you really want to be, you know, crafty about how you're communicating, and it's hard because sometimes you're like, because I've interviewed people before and they just like turn on. I'm like, you don't have to be on with me right now.
No.
Actually, please turn off.
Wait, and I always tell this, I'm always like, and it's like, at the end of the day, like I'm always going to have to bring it up within like a few minutes of, because I feel almost like it's a gotcha moment to be like, by the way, I'm a journalist. You just told me all your secrets. Especially at like VC happy hours or like conferences, I can very much like disguise as a, emerging fund manager, I guess. Unfortunately, I still look like more of an emerging fund manager than the mass check writers in venture capital, but that's a separate conversation. But I feel like I try and bring it up. I get a lot of that's so cool, which is a really great feeling. Mm-hmm. I get people who like kind of turn off, but I think I also get a lot of people who are just super curious about this profession, which just like always gives me a lot of hope.
Yeah. So can we talk a little bit about this profession? I love the kind of mystery of media. Like, I feel like it's changed over the years, but people who are in the media have a different viewpoint from people who are just reading the stories, right?
Oh, yeah.
So like, how do you explain what you do to like a grandma?
Oh my God. I literally say I cover companies like Uber before they are companies like Uber.
Perfect.
And that is what my nanny, bless her heart, that's what she understood it as. And
really?
It made sense. Yeah. I think they like needed to know like I'm covering like kind of technology, but like early. Yeah. As for what I do on a day-to-day basis, I think a lot of people think like, how do you actually produce so many words? How do you like write and do that part when you're also interviewing? And I think like maybe the biggest craft of this profession is being the person that can always kind of like have two conversations working at once. Like one is the interview brain, but while you're interviewing, you're writing the story. While you're writing the story, you're interviewing someone. Even if you're alone, it's always a conversation you're having with yourself, and you almost always want to be connecting dots and thinking of leads and kickers and transition sentences. And I mean, that to me is the most fun part. Like I love talking to people, but I think even more I love when I start piecing things together and when they happen at the same time. Like I usually wake up during an interview at some point. Like I usually enter interviews like excited, but like, all right, here's another one. Right. And then at some point you ask a question where people say something that makes you like surprised. And that's when I think like the job of a journalist is like happening. Yeah. It's like usually the last 3 minutes of a podcast. So maybe we're doing better on this one.
No, it's always the last like little piece that you didn't even plan for. That's where the best shit happens.
Yeah. And it's just, especially in describing like how media and tech work today, like I think it's so like at odds that when I do get vulnerability, that's another thing. I'm like, oh my God, like that changes the whole story. I always joke that I'm like kind of the reporter that like I break scoops through getting people to say things that they didn't think were interesting but really are. Right. More than getting them to tell me like a big secret. Right. I don't know. I find the former much more interesting.
Yeah, the secrets are like everyone will know eventually.
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
And even if they do, I mean, yeah, I think there's like journalists who do a great job at that. Right. And I would be lying to say like that's not something I'm like hoping to grow into. Yeah. But at this point, like I think Mike Isaac, who like you know, and I think like it is synonymous with like breaking news around Uber. He said on a podcast like a few years ago, and I have like literally written like blog posts about this, is he was like, I realized my superpower could be just being earnest. And I was like, that is me. I am not the person who's gonna like yell at you on the phone and like screw you over. I'm gonna be earnest, and you're gonna feel like you can tell me stuff. Right. And we're gonna get to a place of truth together.
Success. This whole industry that you're in, or I guess intersectional industry that you're in, how do you keep it all together? Because I don't think that we need to go through like what's been happening in business and tech lately, but corporate failures left and right, and just so much happening in innovation and with the economy. Oh my God. And also you're like covering this, and all the other news is happening at the same time, like during the last 3 years. It's insane.
It's insane. And I honestly like don't think about it until someone asks me about it, which is maybe not the healthiest way to go about feeling this out, because it's so hard to remove yourself as a journalist that, you know, technically and is told to not, you know, be a 24 hours on person, and like no one can be. Sure. Because news can break on Christmas Eve. Like you need to be the person that, you know, if you are a level of ambitious, like you want to be there to write that story. And so I almost think you can't think about it sometimes. You can't think about that sort of how you handle it. Otherwise, I don't know. I think otherwise you feel like you're missing things too much. Right. But I've gotten better at it through the years. Like I honestly feel like if you ask me like when I was at like an internship, like I always say, like I've shaken off my intern mentality where I'm not like trying to prove myself so much as I am trying to like rethink about the readers more than like, am I like deserve to be here? And I think it's still the reader thing is the new tension, but that's still hard to do. I'm always worried that I'm not doing enough for readers, and like I have this tip, and well, now I haven't covered it, and oh, now like 3 years later, like the New York Times reports on that company being shitty, and I'm like, I knew about that. I could have maybe saved someone from working there or being screwed over, and I think it's stuff like that like I think really ends up weighing on journalists because we have so many tips swirling around all the time, and you just cannot do something. You can't do stuff with so many things.
So you feel a little bit like you can't be of service all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can't be of service all the time. You also like I could never be a founder for the reason of like I like being in a group. At the same time, like I do struggle with the trust falling a little bit, and I think almost like the way to be a successful journalist is to remove yourself and your ego from it and be like, I'm not going to cover this, but hey, like I really like I know that like Aaron Griffith at the New York Times is going to cover this, and like feeling good about that because that means your heart's in the right place. Taylor Lorenz said this to me the other day too. She was like, I am just like thankful that there's other journalists on this beat finally. And I was like, that is like the right way to look at it. It should not be like, I'm not doing everything.
Truly,
even though she
there's
is,
so much.
you know?
Even though she's been doing it forever.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I think otherwise you'll go crazy if you don't trust other people to also be a reporter with you.
True.
And so I'm trying to do that these days.
Respectable.
Thank you. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. You know, there's like the level of ambition you want to be so you can be like unavailable and can kill it. But then there's the unhealthy and unfair level where you think the world rests on your shoulders.
Right.
And you almost need to be humbled and said, you're not special to feel better. And I think I tell myself I'm not special all the time so I can like calm the fuck down.
Aw.
Can we curse on this podcast? I didn't even know.
Yes.
Okay. I was like, oh my God, we can't curse on equity. So I was like, yeah.
Yes. Go crazy. Well, you're special.
Thank you.
Okay.
But not too. Like, I don't want to be too special. I don't want to be,
Not too special.
Let's all be replaced by AI.
Oh my God, bro.
No.
What? As a reporter, what is your take on AI?
My take on AI is that it clearly is going to be like a life-changing technology. I think tech might be the wrong way for us to be making the starting point from. Like tech is what's going to do it the fastest and the loudest and probably the way that like breaks things in the most interesting and like life-changing ways. But I almost like truly wish we were talking about this from a more like political way, educational way. Like I wish like the the education reporters in every massive publication were the AI reporters. Like we're pivoting to AI right now. Versus,
right, because it is education.
Yeah, I almost think like tech being so tech about it is what's taking away from it. And I love it. I love tech, but I just know right now that we're not interviewing the right people all the times.
Who should we be interviewing?
I think we should be interviewing like parents, like people who are like have no reason to be up to date with the latest on GPT-4, but are seeing their lives starting to be impacted on by it. And I think like big publications do this, but it's just something I'm like paranoid about. Paranoia is a big part of the job of like, I'm like, am I talking to the right people? And am I like elevating the right things with the right incentives? Like you never know for sure. And I think sometimes with like something like AI, some people are going to say things and they're interesting that you just want to publish.
Yeah.
So.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's a hot take, but it's not hot, but it is interesting. I have not heard that.
Yeah. I don't know.
Should be talking to parents.
We should always be talking to parents.
Parents like literally know everything. Yeah. They're experts. They really
this is a parent love pod.
Oh my God.
We're being sweet.
I want to talk a little bit about, your work. And we just talked about the kind of 24-hour news cycle a little bit, kind of reporting on the various corporate crashes and
oh, yes.
Various Series A to IPO crashes.
Yeah.
All the things. And you kind of said like you're able to compartmentalize like somehow.
Yeah.
How? And like, what like tips would you give other people? Because I feel like you're dealing in also like in this very like I feel like tech in that space is very like toxic positivity.
Totally. It was basically it was like all at once where I kind of like I think it was as dramatic as this, which is like I hit my 1-year anniversary at TechCrunch, and then I started getting tips on what was actually happening in tech. It was like
really?
It was like for 1 year you will be the optimist.
Okay.
And then after 1 year you will now be anointed into the world where VCs talk shit about other VCs or founders talk shit about other things, and like everyone complains to you. I know, and I mean honestly, I think that is what saved me from burning out of like the person who now today I don't really write funding round stories anymore.
Right.
Because I think the toxic positivity can be really hard to deal with. on a day-to-day basis as a journalist who I think news is tension. So I think if there's no tension, it's hard. The way I deal with it though, like the way I deal with it is like, I feel like I have to talk about it. Like I have to, like I have a podcast. I have like a way I feel like I have a way I like vent about it. And I feel like almost if I was like only able to talk about stuff that was like perfectly underneath a byline with a headline and had like 6 sources, I would go crazy. But because it's kind of like, again, like a team, and like TC is a very like shout on the internet place, that it feels almost helpful to be able to like process it in real time.
Right.
And the more vulnerable people are being with me, the more real I feel like I'm getting. So
you're talking about on equity.
On equity, but even like I'm even thinking like I just feel like SF is a fun place to be, because I do feel like most of my conversations end up now jumping straight to the part where we're all just kind of like processing what's actually happening. No one's really small talking in SF anymore.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know if that was really an answer to your question. I don't know how I compartmentalize. I feel like I don't a lot of the time. I mean, it's really, really scary to report on something you think might, be the next SBF FTX or Elizabeth Holmes.
Yeah.
And you can't really prove that because we're covering private companies, which will never give us your financials.
Right.
And so I think you almost as a reporter need to get comfortable with you're going to report on someone who is shitty in some way.
Yeah.
You need to do your best in contextualizing it and not being breathless about it.
Mm.
And like lean into the power you have, which is like there's 2 options. There's either these stories are never told and they exist, but they still exist somewhere,
right,
or we like help broadcast how someone is thinking about something as simple as like remote work policies. I don't know. And
she rolled her eyes, guys.
I know. But I think I feel like my job is less like here's who is the right person to focus on as an entrepreneur. And it's more like, let me be like the history book of tech versus like, let me like tell you where to put your money.
Right.
That's like the goal, is to be a history book. And I think to be a history book, you need to kind of always write everything.
Right.
You can't just write the stories that are like positive or negative.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting intersection. So like, how are you approaching the day? Like when you're getting started, like what's happened? You're like, oh shit, I have 5 stories to write and 2 podcasts to record, and I have 7 founders. I have to do my research on them. I'm like, I don't know, like what's going on in your head? That's what's going on in my head.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
in your world that I just made up.
No, I mean, it's not completely false. I think one thing I learned like the first time I worked for more than like a month at a time.
Yeah.
The first time I stopped being an intern was one of my reporter friends was like, you need to make sure the first thing you do when you wake up is not work related. Very 101 stuff, but like the way that has helped me.
Oh, it works.
Because information is so on our fingertips, and as a journalist, it's like even more on your fingertips as a journalist based on the West Coast covering an East Coast kind of story sometimes. Like it's even more on your fingertips. So if anytime I want, I could talk to someone about tech. I almost need to tell myself, do not wake up and do this. So I've started just like waking up and like, going for a walk, honestly, as simple as that.
Yeah.
The other way I feel like I think about it is I always try and give myself grace, which can be anything from, I don't take coffee meetings really outside a 5-minute walk from my apartment anymore, which I felt very uncomfortable by. I was like, this, very like hardworking founder or investor or employee is like taking time out of their day and talking to me. But I almost feel like I can be a more present person if I'm not constantly running around the city.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm like trying to be selfish a little bit with my time.
Like intentional.
Yeah. So, yes. Intentional is a better way to say it. I'm like, I am being so mean by making people come to me. But it's actually
How dare you?
It's these literal, simple, obvious things that actually doing them has helped so much.
Yeah.
And then probably the final thing that's helped me approaching a day where I would have like 5 interviews, a story to get out, and like a podcast.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And I think I can only do those kind of days like for maybe like a week long stretch at a time. And then I have to take like a week of like maybe write a little less. I think very much like getting confident, and now knowing that now that I've been in the business for 4 years, I think a lot of people like are not super, how do I say this without insulting my whole career? Like journalists have the easy job. We just have to ask questions. Yeah. You have to answer. Like that's the hard part. So I think honestly remembering like
it?
I think asking questions is so much easier than answering them. Are you kidding?
Really?
I think only because I'm like,
it depends on what the questions and answers are.
Yes. At this point, like I can enter an interview, have a pretty good conversation without heavily prepping.
Yeah.
Whenever I prep for even 5 minutes, it makes a difference. But I think giving myself some sort of like, hey, you got this on a baseline, whatever you do is icing on top, has helped me so much in handling crazy days because I'm not constantly like entering a conversation feeling like I'm on my back foot. I'm like, oh, of course I can talk to you about this. This is like all we both are both incentivized to have an interesting conversation right now. Why would we dance around that?
Yeah.
I think we're not on the same team. We shouldn't be on the same team as the people we cover, but in some ways we are, in that we both want to have an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
So thankfully that's like really kept me going. It's leaning on the natural interest.
when you're like, I'm not taking a coffee meeting with you or whatever, like, are people offended?
Yeah. In New York, I mean, this is like, unfortunately, like I'm here for 48 hours and like I do not know how to plan my schedule in New York.
Thanks for coming, by the way.
Of course.
All the way to Brooklyn.
No, I mean, I wanted to do this. I was really excited. And I want to see a lot of people while I'm here.
Yeah.
And it's a bummer because I think it's like a lot of people who I'm professionally and personally friends with. And this is not a hot take. Everyone struggles with time management, but
it's only 48 hours.
But it's only 48 hours. And I think like yes, people are offended. I think like the thing that I'm really happy that remote world gave us is like defaulting to a phone call and a walking phone call. I'm almost like, I'm really honest when I can't do a meeting. I'm like, hey, I'll be tired. I won't really have questions.
Yeah.
And it'll actually be a waste of your time. And I think that's when people are like, I get it. And I appreciate it. Like I missed a call today and it's for a story that I would get out in 2 days. And the VC was just like super like,
you're busy.
Don't feel like you're late all the time. Like you need to have some sort of confidence and ownership over your schedule, and you can't just respond to people all the time.
That's real.
Yeah. That's been the biggest change between year 1 and year 4.
Yeah. When did you stop feeling bad about that?
Probably like a year in. Again, like the 1 year drop dramatic anniversary. I'm a big anniversary girl. So I was like, now I think I can stop responding to email. I like love people though. So it's I think to be also a good journalist, you need to have some sort of level of anxiety around missing out on an interesting interview.
Yeah.
And so I still feel like that's the balance I'm striving for now is like, don't like break down, shut down and not respond to anyone, but like also realize you can't schedule the 5 minutes between like walking to your like literal bedroom from your kitchen, which is like I think a 1 minute walk. I live in SF, but it's so small, and I want to schedule that too. And I'm just trying to like not always be a habit stacker. You're
just so optimized.
Yeah, no, but it's so annoying. I was only taking walks for a period of time if I was doing an interview during them. Yeah, and I was like, that's weird. Like you don't need to. Yeah, I don't know. I'm figuring out my philosophy on how to make that work, but it's definitely not by habit stacking 24/7.
Okay. Yeah, the tech bro has not worn off on you.
No, not yet. It's inspiring though. There are founders who are like way more busy than me that respond to me in like 5 seconds, and it's not because it's me. I think they're just those people. And those are the people.
It might be because it's you.
It may be, but I don't know. I'm just like, how are you so on it? I don't know. I feel like I need to get iMessage on my laptop. That feels like the biggest hack in the world.
I feel like that's amazing because I don't have to be distracted by my iMessage everywhere.
That's true.
I don't know, but maybe you need it for work.
Everyone wants to like chat all the time in our careers, and so it's almost like you have to like be very like aware when it's worth it and do the mental calculus. And to me, like I am uncomfortable and will be maybe a worse journalist for this, which is I will never be transactional.
No, that makes you an even better journalist.
Yes, but knowing that I will not be always able to like convert a source into someone who can teach me things in a way that I think would be better for a story at times. So I'm like, I guess I'm really playing the long game, and that's how I protect my peace. To circle back to your question,
boundaries,
long game,
boundaries.
Seriously, it's like be okay with like we can talk about it. Tomorrow.
Yeah. We can literally talk about it in 2 weeks. And it won't matter.
That'll be the new name of this podcast. We can talk about it in 2 weeks.
There's one thing I wanted to ask you about interviewing when you're interviewing founders. How do you deal with, you've talked a little bit about it on, I forget the one episode that you did of Equity. It was about women in the startup space. I forget the VC's name. She's amazing. She's from the Bay Area. But you guys were talking a lot about privilege. How do you deal when you're reporting in a space that is wrought with white privilege? Yeah. Like, how do you compartmentalize that sometimes, or do you?
I'll be honest, like I feel like it's something that I still feel myself like switching vibe for to make it work. Like my first 2 years in tech reporting. I was going to the Battery and like wine rooftop cellars, which I thought cellars were underground. So why are they on this roof?
Because it's extra.
Yeah. And like, you know, like crazy, like, you know, often like very like indulgent and luxurious experiences to meet VCs. And I think they feel good because you feel invited, you feel like you're asked questions, and it's like, this makes you feel like you're doing work.
Yeah.
I think like being aware of the privilege and almost being like the fly on the wall to me was really helpful. And I still do go to, you know, the fancy schmancy dinners. But I think almost knowing that that's, to me, a extra of my job, but not the main way I should be sourcing, is helpful. Like I use those dinners as a way to like, and not every dinner is full of privileged people, but like a lot of times they are. And I think it's kind of like listening to All In. Yeah. It's like you get to listen to people talk about things that you probably would never be invited to talk about.
Correct.
With them. Yeah. And so I almost use privilege as like exposure to privilege as like a superpower. Just because I don't know if that's like something like, I don't know if I can really joke about the Hamptons with people and I won't get that far in that conversation, but eavesdropping on it is pretty helpful. So
totally. Yeah.
People are also so good at, like, people love to talk about themselves. It's really easy to compartmentalize. Like I don't have to share anything about myself during that whole dinner probably.
Truly. So I'm sure that a lot of people don't really ask you much about yourself, huh?
Yeah, I feel like it's either like they ask way too much about myself or they like don't ask at all. And I honestly prefer the don't ask at all perspective as a journalist at times, because you don't really want them like being like, hey, like here's like let's talk about your love life. Let's like I don't want to talk about that with you.
Why not?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I know, but so no, I think the privilege part is very much like what is the scary and I think tiring part of the job is it gets boring after a while to cover rich people getting richer. So I always am looking for the human impact side. It's not easy to find.
No, but you do a really good job of it.
Thank you. Yeah. Someone joked to me that like my toxic trait is that I take VC too seriously because I'm obsessed with it only because of the emerging fund manager scene. Like I think that's what's cool to me.
That's what you said earlier.
Yeah, I was like, it's it.
That's rad. I also feel like in tech coverage, there are so many women now that cover tech. Yeah. And there was always a few. Yeah. But now there's like way more women, especially at TechCrunch. Like you guys are covering a lot more like POC VCs. You're like, the coverage is like wide.
Yeah, it feels like so much more realistic. Yeah. It feels so much more like I had this worry of being like the brown girl covering brown girls, and it does not feel like that's the conversation. Yeah. And I think like the biggest blessing in a weird way has been like the whole industry went through this massive reset when remote work started, and everyone kind of had to learn how to source online and learn how to like build rapport with someone via a screen. And I feel like that gave me the biggest catch up to understand who the interesting people in venture are and like the good people in venture are. Right.
When you're only seeing over and over the same people out of events and you're out in person.
I went to like Allraise, their summit, and it was like the first conference I've walked into where I like felt like I could like fully be like present and not like thinking about, I don't know, like, being like one of like 5 women and like maybe being one of like 2 women of color. So yeah, I feel like there's been a lot of like opportunity for me, and like I know there's a lot of like sadness and frustration around the fact that like 2% of VC funding goes to female founders. I am like staking my hope on like the fact that like the seeds have been sowed. The seeds have been planted, not seeds have been sowed. The seeds have been planted. The tree shall arrive, and like I'm really hoping it does. I think I feel like it's a really cool time to be seeing the power, work through different networks in ways that we hadn't seen prior. That's what keeps me excited about it.
Yeah, and I love Dominique Midori's coverage.
Oh,
too.
yes, I just got lunch with her. She's amazing.
Oh, that's cute.
Dom is so good. I think she's so good about being real, and I think like you need to be a journalist that's like not. I think you can't be too much of an insider, even though I know that's kind of what success looks like sometimes.
Sometimes, but also I think there's a really big advantage to being like just kind of on the rim, like you're there, you're there, but you're not like fully in it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. So have you ever had any situations where you were just like, why are you asking me this? Or like, why are you asking me this like this?
From like a source?
Yeah, from a source, yeah.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, all the time. I think before I was like, when I was new, I feel like I gave off that vibe more. And so when I was at the Globe and the Chronicle, it was a little more serious. I was part of a traditional newsroom. People treated you like that. They like, as a student, people were answering my emails because I had like the Globe whatever, globe.com email. Like, what was my email then? I'm like trying to cite my email. It will go nowhere. Then I moved to like a more bloggy spot, like Crunchbase.
Yeah.
And there people were like, let's go get mani-pedis. Let's go on yachts.
Wait, what?
Yeah. And I think it's,
Back in the day, you used to actually be able to easily go out with a reporter.
Yeah.
Like just hang out.
Right.
Like when I lived in SF, I was working on the other, like in PR.
Right.
And we just like, just hanging out.
Which I still love and I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a different vibe, I think.
It was totally different. You could
People
literally
were like drinking
cold call.
and I mean, I feel like the culture there was like insane, and that's a whole other podcast. But I don't remember what the question was anymore. I'm like, now I'm just distracted by like what old blog culture was like.
Dude, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I would be like at a rave and I would be like, hey, what's up,
Yeah, oh my God. I just saw for the first time speak and I was like, this is insane. Like, so
I'm
good.
a fan. If you're listening, Malik, we love you.
Oh my God, huge fan.
Got a playlist coming for you.
And I'm obsessed with those journalists. I think I've like come to terms with the fact that like I do want to be a journalist that's less like the neighborhood beer journalist.
Yeah.
And more a little more like I'm like here to work and like be present. I'm a little more traditional, I guess. Like it was really fun to be the person everyone liked.
Yeah.
And I'm working on being less likable right now. That is what's happening.
All right, respect. I'm gonna get you a shirt.
I'm working on being less likable.
Just literally less likable.
Yeah, like
Or likable crossed out.
Yeah. So I mean, when people ask me a really weird personal questions, I was asked on dates by sources all the time.
Stop.
And like was asked to see absurd like people would just ask me to show them my stories, tell me everything there.
Oh, okay.
It was a lot of no boundaries, and now I think there's like so much vitriol that
word that's real.
Yeah, the people are almost like, I still get a lot of like the people who are I think a little bit too personal with me, but I also get a lot of like, we're just not going to talk, and I'm like, okay, well. Cool. I need to work on slowly getting at that. But that's like, I think where I'm at right now in my career is I'm more so focused on people who are not going to talk to me than people who are.
Secrets out, guys. What are you looking forward to? Like what's happening? What's in the realm of excitement? What's like, what gets you up in the morning? Like, what are you thinking about?
I feel like I finally have clarity.
You have clarity?
I finally have clarity. Like, I mean, I'm stressed. I'm confused in a lot of ways. I have clarity on, like, what I'm good at. I think, like, literally, like, 6 hours ago I got clarity, and that's
Wait, what?
Yeah.
6 hours ago? What happened?
Well, so, like, I think, like, there's this weird notion. I'm curious if you've heard about it before, which is, like, as a creative, are you a better writer or a reporter? Have you heard that framing before?
Yes. But I don't think about it.
I mean, like the philosophy being kind of obvious, which is like, are you someone who's really good at like putting the words on the paper and like making it sound like music? Or are you good at like getting the dogged facts and unleashing new information? And I think for so long, like that is how people have hired journalists. They're like, are you a better writer or reporter? Are you a better writer or reporter?
True.
And I think for a long time, because before journalism, I wanted to be like a poet. I always told myself I'm a better writer.
Yeah.
And I think that almost made me less ambitious. And I'm not saying that because I think writers are ambitious. I think I was more just like, I'm never going to be the reporter that's like going to break the big story on Uber. But I honestly feel like I'm realizing more and more that I am a good reporter as well.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of just looking forward to embracing that and like embracing that I'm good at the hard part of my job.
Yeah.
Not just the creative part of my job.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I feel like that makes me really excited to just be able to like know what I'm good at. And it's not just the thing I always thought I was good at.
That's like groundbreaking.
Right? I know. Shout out to Zach Whitaker on our team at TC. Like he like just kind of sat me down and he was like, you need to stop saying you're not a good reporter. Like you are good at that. And I was like, yeah, I guess I just always thought I was more good at the leads and the crafting.
Why is that?
And that to me, that is like my favorite thing in the world to do is to like sit
that.
alone and like write a story.
Yeah.
But I think I thought that too much that I didn't realize how much happiness I also get from like literally like interviewing someone and then waking up and being like, oh my God, that's the story. Like I think I'm really good at like being aware of what the story is. And like I want to lean into that more in my next chapter of my career. I feel like I'm like kind of going through like an inflection point in just like how I feel about spending my time and being more selfish, like I said, being more unlikable, intentional, all these things. I feel like it's like a good time. I feel like renewed interest in like being really good at this job and not coasting. And that is like a nice feeling.
Is that translating into like other parts of your life?
I think it's because I'm not planning on leaving SF anymore anytime soon.
Yeah.
I think I was like a big like I'm gonna come back to the East Coast girl for a while.
Yeah.
Just because I just like
We lost you?
Yeah. I'm out. After today, I'm out. I got stuck on the Manhattan Bridge, not the Brooklyn Bridge.
Oh no.
Wait, was that the bridge or did I take the Brooklyn Bridge?
No,
in?
you were on the Manhattan Bridge.
So why does the Manhattan Bridge go into Brooklyn?
Dude, honestly, I have no idea.
Okay.
Because all the bridges, I mean, not all of them, but like the two bought like Brooklyn, Manhattan, and then even, well, the 57th Street goes into Queens, so never mind. But
See,
yeah, there's
it's
two bridges
confusing.
that go to Brooklyn.
So I'm just happy. I'm in an amazing.
It's also a Williamsburg Bridge, so that goes into.
Oh my god.
It's so confusing.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, beyond the difficulty of like just being like I'm a small city person, I think like the Bay Area and just honestly, this is like so journalism related, which is like, it's helped to make peace with the fact that I'll always wake up and be late. East Coast will have been awake, news will have broken. I will always not be the first person, which maybe like editors will hear and be like, oh, she's not like a good writer, but I'm like that is like to me that is like that breaks everything open because that means that I don't need to be always anxious about something. Like I love living on the West Coast for that reason.
That's so real, and a lot of people don't think about that.
Yeah. I mean, it was the biggest change to go from like the Globe newsroom to the Chronicle newsroom,
right? Because
the Globe newsroom I'd be in at 8 a.m. and I was kind of just like everyone was like waking up.
Yeah.
The SF Chronicle newsroom, it's like no matter what, we're gonna be behind the Globe. So for some stories, so we gotta find the better angle or something like that. So.
Totally. Or like, what's the vibe on like second takes?
Yeah, I mean, I'm here. I love a second take.
Okay.
If I could only spend my career writing second take stories, that would be my dream. Are you kidding?
I'm not mad at those. I like those too. I
like those so much. Like I feel like I said, I feel like my strength is very much like what I notice and what I like realize is like the new thing of like what someone said versus like the secret. So I think the second day story is like the whole thing.
I do too. Because like all the facts are out.
Yeah.
Or at least there's like the good AP
Where's
story.
the nuance? That's like my whole job.
Yeah, I know. The numbers behind the nuance. What is it?
Welcome back to Equity, a podcast about the business of startups where we unpack the numbers and nuance behind the headlines.
That's right.
Wow.
What are you, a podcaster? I love that podcast. I'm just going to shout it from the rooftops.
Thank you. I am like I had such a hate relationship with it when I started because it was fucking hard.
Like writing a show?
Yeah, but like having smart opinions with like people like Danny Crichton and Alex Wilhelm. I literally the first day went home, went to the physical library and pulled out a book about like China-America relations.
No, that's real shit.
I felt so uneducated when I started that show. And then I really leaned into the fact that I think everyone is not as prepped as they think they are. And we should all pretend we're that smart. So that's what I'm doing now.
Just fake it till you make it.
It really is like the most cliche and true advice.
Yeah.
One cliche and true advice that's bad is that don't become indispensable. Oh. Because that to me feels like unhealthy. Like why are you gnarly. Putting that on yourself to be indispensable?
Right.
So
Capitalism.
there's some wisdom. Capitalism.
I don't know. I mean, it kind of feels like very capitalistic.
It fully is. It's like make yourself so good they can never fire you, and it's like why don't they make themselves so good
that I'll never leave?
Yeah,
come on, bro.
Yeah. Oh my god. That's what I'm looking forward to. Stuff like that.
Sick. Okay.
Leading into that.
You have like a book coming out? Like what's going on?
Oh my god.
Is it in the works?
It's in the works.
It is?
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Can you say more?
I mean, I can because it's like so silly. It's so small right now. It's literally like a writing group and a Google Doc that says Natasha's creative writing.
Oh. Okay.
I'm working on my first draft of a fiction book.
Stop. Wait, I'm so glad I asked.
Yeah. It's something that like I'm like I've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because I like I said, I do think writing is like my favorite part of the job.
Yeah.
And so I miss getting to do that without it being always something that I'm putting for the public.
Got it.
Like I want to kind of just like write for myself for like however long it takes to write this book, and then it'll be so like I think it'll be so refreshing when it's out.
Yeah. Is it about your beat or?
No, it's like completely fiction. It's about like, I mean, all I know right now is I want to do about female friendship and like the South Asian culture of collectivism. So
I love that.
Yeah, thank you. Fingers crossed it's good. Names are so hard for books.
Dude.
That's what I decided. Names, I'm like, I feel like I know too many South Asian women. And so the names are all like not able to be used, or else people will feel like I'm like talking about them. So I might just use the name and then just write a whole text and be like, it's not about you, but yeah. Sorry you guys have an outfit on.
I couldn't ask everyone.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm working on. I'm really looking forward to it. It's bringing so much life back to me.
Wait, that's exciting. Is there any poetry in there?
Oh, there should be.
Is there any poetry in there?
There really, really should be. No, I feel like my vibe creatively is like stream of consciousness type writing. So like that's hopefully how the book goes. But that's another way I compartmentalize is like I try and remember that like writing was like a passion and a hobby before as a profession. And so I try and always have a project I'm working on the side. So I'm not only looking at writing as a thing I do for, you know, in this very specific way, which is great and it'll get me out of bed. But I don't know if it'll always like be enough to make me like the most creatively fulfilled to be a reporter. I think I always will need to be a reporter and something. And
still to be determined?
Yeah, honestly. Like a reporter, podcaster, writer, coffee obsessor, stuff like that.
Coffee obsessor?
Big coffee girl.
Okay. I got a list.
I know, I really do.
You're here for like 5 more minutes.
I know. Well, I was like, I want to just walk around this area and get coffee. I might still do it. I got Starbucks this morning because I had decision fatigue.
Oh my God.
So I guess I'm not a coffee girl.
Wait, but what did you get?
I get the same order each time, which is a grande cold brew light ice with 1 pump of cinnamon dolce and almond milk.
That sounds so good.
What was your order? I love coffee orders.
At Starbucks?
Anywhere even.
Oh, I'm like, when I go home to San Diego and I'm a basic bitch, I go to Starbucks.
San Diego has interest. San Diego has the best James Coffee.
Oh, James Coffee in Little Italy?
Yeah.
It's like a motorcycle shop kind of.
Yeah. Oh my God. I miss San Diego. I lived there for 2 months through COVID and it was like the best 2 months of my life.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, sick. Okay.
I don't know if you have a hate or love relationship. I can't imagine you hating it.
I don't hate San Diego. That's where I grew up.
Oh my God. Wow, that's amazing. It's a great coffee scene.
Yeah, there's great beer and great coffee.
I missed the beer I should have got. Yeah, I feel like it was COVID when I went. So we were kind of just like, let's get coffee and go home.
Yeah, that's cute. You picked a good spot.
It was I wish I could do that more. I could, actually, but
you could.
Like I said, staying in SF now, so I feel like that's helped me a lot with just being a more like present and like balanced person. I don't feel like I'm like fighting to go somewhere next physically.
Really? San Francisco's so different from like when I lived there.
Like, when were you there?
2005, 6 to like 2010.
Okay.
11. Yeah.
Yeah, so very like tech blogger era.
Dude, it was crazy. Like, that was like TechCrunch, GigaOM, VentureBeat, what was it? What was it called?
Oh, Red Herring?
Red Herring?
Oh my God.
Yeah, like all of those. And then it was like, it was like all of the early startup stuff. And it was like all the cool parties in Maiden Lane.
Oh my God. There was parties in Maiden Lane.
Dude.
Now it's like Suit Supply.
Dude. There used to be this really cool club called Otis. We did like a bunch of stuff for like clients back in the day there.
Oh my God.
And
that's
then I
so
had
cool.
like a night that I played vinyl there. I don't know how to play records, but I used to play records there. It used to be called Otis Lounge. Yeah, it's gone now, I guess.
It's just like, that seems like a dream. Wow.
It was that. And then there was like Madrone.
I've heard great things about Madrone.
I'm like, the End Up.
Yes.
I've heard about it. Still around?
I've heard about it. I don't know if it's still around.
It's a rave.
I could have sworn I drove past it one time.
Yeah, it's over there on like pretty much by like Trader Joe's or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know.
That feels right. But it is so different.
Everything, like Dog Patch wasn't there.
Yeah.
Like everything was totally not what it is today.
It's like, it's weird because like I feel like I don't have like the classic SF experience, even though I'm like so in the beat. I'm like, all my friends are like normal people who like do not care about this at all.
Yeah.
I think that's also helped me like compartmentalize so much. My boyfriend, he's like super, like he'll be up to date on like the recent like tech media moves and like that's so dope and I love it.
Yeah.
But like, and I think he's like slowly starting to be more and more someone who like is like, let's like unpack the tea on this company.
Yeah.
But I mean, fundamentally, like the way like our conversations in our whole friend group, I have one founder friend that's a friend first, the founder second.
Yeah.
Everyone else is just like busy and just has like a broader perspective, and I think that's helped so much. I don't have many journalism friends. I don't have many tech friends.
What are your friends like? What industries are
I
they
have
in?
a lawyer friend. I have like tech friends who are like not really like obsessed with their jobs. Like they're great at their jobs, but they're not like live, breathe.
It's not their life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm friends with teachers. I'm friends with finance people. Yeah, doctors. Like I feel like being friends with people who don't just like talk about this stuff has like really helped me like honestly be a better writer, and that I broaden it out to a bigger group at times, even though that's not always my job. And then also be like, take it seriously, but don't take it like at face value. Like a lot of people still don't understand what happened with this thing, and being so cavalier about it almost is like insulting to someone who's like,
true.
Like it took me a while to realize that 10 million doesn't make you rich as a fundraise, but I don't know if the average person still knows that. And that's like something I have to like, being around that is really like helpful, honestly. It's like, yeah.
What do you mean 10 million doesn't make you rich?
Raising 10 million in like a Series A round. Like I always let that money go straight to you.
What? Oh, okay. I was like, no way.
No way. But like.
But yeah, that I mean, back in the day, it kind of did.
I'm sure it did.
It's changed.
Yeah.
There's a lot more checks and balances.
Now it's like founders have to get their salary approved by their investors.
Right. That's wild.
Yeah. So I think like the hack is definitely having friends who are outside of this world. Like if I was only friends with VCs, journalists, and founders, like maybe I would be better sourced, but I would rather take the longer road than like jump in head first for sanity purposes.
Again, you're being intentional.
Yes.
Yes. Respectable.
Oh my God. I wish I had like, I wish I did it earlier, but I'm sorry. I'm getting there.
You got it. You got it now. Okay. So I just want to end on this. Where do you see tech going in the next like 6 months?
6 months. Oh my God. I thought you were going to say 6 years. And I was like, that's easy.
I mean,
6 months. Wait, let me look at the exact month it's going to be in 6 months.
Okay.
Oh, it's going to be October.
6 months. Yeah. 6 months and 6 years.
Oh my God.
Can I change?
So yeah, I mean, so my 6 months answer is I think we're going through like kind of like this moment where there's a lot of like rehomogenization of tech, which like it got super accessible, quote, like during the boom times because people saw opportunity, and VCs were more like, I think, risky and broader in their perspectives, and a whole new asset class of tech writers came in. Then things got hard, and the LPs that were backing the diverse founders or VCs froze up, and they went to their Stanford-only networks.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so I think we're seeing that play out right now to an extreme. I think in 6 months, we're going to be somewhere in like, it's not going to be as good as it was for diverse people, I think, in 6 months than it was in 2021, but it's not going to be as bad as this current moment. So I almost feel like it's going to be boring in 6 months.
Okay.
Like I want it to be boring, and not in like, I think I still want to see ambitious companies and interesting things happen. Yeah. But I don't know if we're going to have like something like a crypto hype cycle ever happen again, even with what we're seeing with AI right now. As worrisome as I feel about it just being a tech conversation, like the way VCs are not actually investing, but just saying that they're investing because they're actually so paranoid about doing something wrong. To me, that feels like a real tell on like why this hype cycle is different. And I imagine 6 months from now, there'll be enough like, hey, we also exist, even though we're not like kind of throwing ragers every week and writing crazy checks. And so I kind of just am hoping that happens. Yeah. I always manifest when I get asked questions like that. I'm always like, this is what I would love for it to happen.
Right.
I'd also love to be a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist in 6 months.
Sick.
Yeah.
We're rooting for you.
6 years. In 6 years. I think the seeds of like diversity.
The year is 2029.
Yeah. I think we're gonna be. I think tech is like already such like an everywhere conversation. I think tech by then will be like so much more formal than it is now, because we talk about like what SF was like when you were there. Yeah, that was an era. This is a whole era where like it's getting like standardized, professionalized in a lot of ways. 6 years from now, I imagine tech is gonna be something that's like, you know, a lot more within politicians like verbiage, and the average college and the average person would think of it as a career path. Like I still only thought of the career path of tech when I was like late in college. So like I just think that it becoming such a big conversation. 6 years from now is going to be kind of like, I think
like mainstream.
So mainstream. Like I don't think we're even close to how mainstream we could be right now. Like I think the way people digested SVB like very much showed me that people still think that tech is like the garage band rich duo of coders. And I was like, oh, we are not that.
Wow.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that.
I think some people were like, oh, who needs to bail out these people, right? Do you see that conversation happening?
Which one?
It was just very much like, oh, like SVB crash, like, why would we bail them out? It's all rich people who are building companies.
Okay. I did see a conversation like that, yeah.
So I think like there is like a little bit of like, Silicon Valley had a PR problem.
Shocking.
It has a PR problem. I think 6 years from now, it will have to not in order to be kind of like the biggest level of success it could be. It will need to be able to explain why it's actually making an impact for better than for worse.
How does Silicon Valley pivot its narrative?
Oh my God. Fund better companies. Move slower. Don't break things.
Don't break things and move fast?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how it does that. I think it's honestly like, it's, you know, as I'll be a super boring media person now, and I think that people need to be more honest and like don't hide. You know, people backed Adam Neumann's second company.
I am disgusted.
And I think that's like a really big tell. And like people do not take tech seriously because of this.
He lives in my neighborhood, by the way.
No way.
I read about it in the New York Times.
Oh, he lives here?
In Brooklyn, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Have
you seen any Flow buildings pop up? I'm like looking for I'm looking for anything to tell me about Flow. So if
No, but I will send you pictures.
Yeah, please.
But yeah, do you think it's like a structural problem in terms of like rebuilding the narrative for Silicon Valley, or is it really just a PR problem?
No, I think it's actually a structural problem.
Yeah.
Like, I think journalists play a role in it too.
Sure.
I think if you just interview the loudest people on Twitter who can talk in all caps and have really good threads, you're contributing to the problem.
Right.
And I realized that, like, I think later than I wish I did.
Yeah.
Where I was interviewing the easiest interviews.
Sure.
But that's like probably, even if they are the people who control the vast majority of capital, I actually think I need to interview the people who aren't always on.
Right.
Available. Like, what are they doing and how are they doing it? And how is the face of VC actually changing versus what VC wants you to tell is changing? And
yeah.
I mean, I don't even know how to begin thinking about how it changes things. All I know is it needs to do it, and it needs to probably include journalists in that. Like, journalists also need to have high standards and do smarter reporting and, take longer on these pieces, on these, like, profiles.
Which is rough because the news cycle is like every, 24 hours. Even in like 12 hours, people forget about stuff.
I mean, 100%. The whiplash is insane.
6 hours. Like it's old news by then.
Totally. And as a journalist, I'm like, okay, what should I put my time on? Like,
right.
And it's like I'm in a good place right now where I'm not being forced to think about traffic. At the same time, like, I'm not stupid. I know people don't care about what I'm talking about. And so I'm almost like, what's the time distribution? Emma Chamberlain said something so interesting that I still think about, which is like, she was realizing that producing videos on a 7-day timeline only gave her the ambition to think about things as a 7-day timeline. And she was like, what happens if you break open the deadlines and you have to produce? Like, you can produce like 10 things in 10 days, or you can also produce one thing in 6 months.
Yeah.
What happens when you give yourself permission to be someone who thinks beyond a cycle that's prescribed by capitalism and ambition and what you think a proper kind of cadence should be as a writer? And if there was like a dream I had, it would be just to be someone who could think that way.
Right.
I'm like, I really struggle with that. Like, I haven't written it all this week, and it's Tuesday, and I feel horrible about it.
Yeah.
But I think that's like how we get closer, is like we kind of question a lot of these like status quos on how we create and what we amplify and why we amplify it. And like,
we go into a 4-day work week or what?
4-day work. Exactly. And we delete stories. Like, we don't publish everything we write. Like, I feel like the journalism career can go through a lot of cleaning up itself too.
Wait, delete stories? Say more.
Delete like drafts. Like, don't publish everything you write.
I'm like, wait, delete the stories.
No, never do something that's live, but more like write a lot of shitty stories and like delete them. Don't publish them. Just like,
I've done that.
Yeah, I think I have not done that in a minute.
I had to edit myself. I was like, why, bro? Why are you putting this out? It's not your best work.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of
you learned something from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on that. The publishing cadence, a lot. But in a world where it's so easy to share a hot take and like get access to it and retweet it and share your hot take on top of that hot take, soon we just live in a world where hot takes are the reality. It doesn't matter what's actually happening.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, and so it's fucking exhausting. And like I said, things will exist before and after us. So you almost have to like be aware of that in order to survive.
What's the value of a hot take?
That's a good question. A hot take gives you the adrenaline that you need in order to feel educated on something. And who doesn't want to feel educated on something that everyone's talking about? To me, the scary thing is when hot takes become, like I said, your reality.
Right.
And then you write stuff off of hot takes, which I've done so many times.
Right.
Where I've been like, it's so easy to get 6 founders to say it, like, it's so easy to get, like, 6 founders to tell you we should have a 2-day work week. Like, I can get founders to tell me that.
Yeah.
I could write that, too. And I could make it seem like it's a bigger deal than it's not. I think that power and, like, even the pressure even that you kind of know this is an interesting story, like, when is it actually a story that's happening, or when is it a story that, like, a few people think is interesting?
Right. Being
aware of that, that's like, balance is, like, super hard. And I'm always worried I'm contributing to that, but I try hard to be nuanced and, like, always, like, overhedge everything.
That's respectable. I actually pitched an editor at the Times like a few weeks ago a story. It's a good story. And she was like, it's not quite the right time for that story. And I was like, I kind of had that feeling too as I was like sending off the email. And I was like, oh, you know what? You're right. It's not the right time for this story. But like a lot of people are talking about it, but not enough. You know, it's not like
AI related, or is it
no, music. It's a music story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting. I feel like it's the timing too. Yeah, you want to get people I think in like a lawless world we could publish when we think it's important whenever we do. But yeah, you have to really think about
a good editor.
The backdrop of what you're saying, and that backdrop, and being aware of the all-consuming backdrop. Like to me, that's the hardest part of this freaking job. Yeah, is like being aware and contextualizing it and knowing how your comments are going to be sat and twisted and questioned. So like you almost always need to be super like I said, like always having a conversation with like yourself, your editor, your source, your like insecurities, your ambition, and like the East Coast time zone.
Right.
And then you are getting to a place where you're kind of aware of what you're publishing will make a difference. Otherwise, you being like just focused on getting a story live, I think you just wouldn't be true. So like how do you have a conversation with your insecurities? What's that look like? Oh my God. It looks like is it like praying? Hitting your breaking point. Oh, okay. Is it being like, this is not sustainable. Okay. No. Yeah. I feel like very recently I hit my breaking point, and it was a week before SVB crashed. Oh. And then the muscle memory kicked in with it crashed, and it was like truly a really like thankful week for me. Yeah. Because it gave me confidence that I know how to do my job again. Yeah. But I think there's something so unhealthy about being someone who's like, I'm going to overperform for like, be like a flame for a little bit, then disappear, then be a flame again. But I also almost think that that's a reality. So I feel like having a conversation with my insecurity all the time. And I talk to journalists about it a lot, and that helps a ton because this is such a weird time. And I think you can always find someone who will tell you that you're doing great. And I don't think you need to always hear that. Right. So that's what I'm like looking for right now is people to be like, hey, like, here's what you can work on. Me too. I don't need any more yes men and women. Exactly. I really don't. I really don't. Because, like, I'm not taking it personal. I'm not, like, I just, like, always want to be challenged. It's more like, no, but it's nice when people are like, good job or whatever. Yeah. But no, but, like, I think, like, your insecurity does not need to be told, like, being told just be more confident when you're insecure is like, I think one of the shittiest things. Very toxic positivity. It's super toxic positivity. It's like, dude, no, you're not hearing me out for how I feel, which is I don't know how to do this job right now. And like what I would rather hear is like, hey, like actually if you power through and like write a story, a part of me has gotten one piece of advice, which was like, you need to lean in and out of your natural attention cycles, which I don't think is realistic because it's like news is 24 hours. Yeah. But I think at least having some sort of perspective and even debate about how we all manage our time is really helpful to me. Right. This is even very helpful to me. Yeah. Okay, great. I'm so happy. It really is. Yeah. It's good to think about this stuff because I feel like this is like I said, it's really hard to, I think if you're too aware, you almost freak out and don't do anything. Yeah, you get like paralysis. Yeah. That happens to me. I get that a lot, actually. Totally. So I realize I really actually have ADD. Yeah. Like, it's bad. It's hard. I have to create a schedule or else nothing will happen. Yes. You also need to be like, this keeps coming up to me, but like you have to be a little bit cringe and a little bit like aware of being cringe where like, I feel like one of my like powers as a journalist is like, I don't ever have like an ego around Twitter. Like I'll just always tweet something that comes to my head, whether it's like, like after I had like 3 glasses of wine or if I like, I'm breaking a story. Like, I feel like I'll like always try and over communicate. And I think that's the brand I want to create. Yeah. The brand I want to create. That's what I was asking earlier, your brand. Yeah. But brand. No, I think, I don't know. There's so many kinds of journalists you can be. And I wish I kind of knew that earlier. Because I think I always thought that you need to be like the taking names, breaking stories, breaking hearts journalist. And I think I'm going to be that, but not in the way I thought I would be. Yeah. I feel like you're there. Oh, thank you. I don't know if you're breaking hearts, but no, I'm not breaking hearts. Maybe from the people I'm not meeting in the heart of like Alamo Square, I'm breaking their hearts. Who are you missing right now? Like, what types of sources or like what populations are you interested in speaking to? I don't talk to enough founders, surprisingly enough. Wait, what? Yeah. What, you talk to PR people? No. I talk to VCs a lot. Oh, you need more founders. I need more founders. I need more founders who are not media trained, obviously. Okay, who are not media trained. Okay. I need founders who are like in it and like live and breathe this stuff, but are human enough to be like not always talking their book. But I feel like I talk to a lot of VCs because I think VCs are much more incentivized to talk to journalists than founders are. Because if their name is out there, then the next kind of like insane person will go tell them about their company. Versus the founder is kind of just like, like if Natasha writes about me, maybe I can recruit, but like also I'm fine. And I feel like I'm under indexed on founders, surprisingly.
That is shocking.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm actually shocked.
Whenever I meet a founder, I'm like, oh my God, you're so nice. I mean, I just met someone who's like, I mean, he is like completely like, this is like this is the reason I feel like I'm obsessed with this world is like, I just feel like I keep meeting people who like have no reason to be doing what they're doing and they're doing it anyways.
I love
They can
that.
retire. Like they're defying human laziness, and that to me is just a very interesting and exciting thing.
Yeah.
Like there will always be Google. Google can always build your company. You're doing it anyways,
Yeah.
and I love that about you. And that's like such a story.
Yeah.
Like who has the audacity to go up against Google? That is like insane to me.
Fair.
May God grant me the confidence to one day go up against Google, as I'm a founder of nothing except for my young adult fiction book.
You're a Natasha Mascarenhas LLC founder.
It's happening. I know. Watch me start a Substack like in next year, and you're just like, excuse me,
Ma'am, you're a founder.
yeah, now you're a full founder. Substack writers are so interesting. Like I've loved seeing some of my colleagues in the journalism world go that route. I'm like, go you. You are powerful.
It's kind of crazy. Wait, is Platformer, is that a Substack?
Yes, Casey Newton's, Zoe Schiffer, and then Eric Newcomer's obviously.
Yeah, Casey Newton is another reporter that I've been following since, Giga-Ohm days.
I think Casey's like truly like, yeah, he's one of my favorite people.
He's amazing. I've never met him, but I've conspired over email with him, but
yeah,
he's a great reporter.
Such a good reporter, and the kind of reporter where like, as a reporter, like a 5-minute conversation or listening to him have a 5-minute conversation is like it's like a masterclass in journalism. Him, like Alex Conrad, I think is like so helpful. Mm-hmm. Whenever we meet, like he'll just say something really smart and like that's it for the meeting.
Just rent free in your head.
And I'm just like, wait, that is like that completion of my perspective. So I'm like eager. I'm a sponge for. I love talking about journalism. Love talking about journalism.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's the best. I'm like also doing the worst thing, which I'm hitting the table during a podcast. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I think we're moody. Are you moody?
I'm so moody. I'm schmoody.
Thanks so much for tuning into Current Mood today. Don't forget to follow Current Mood on Spotify and give us a little rating if you're feeling it. Give us a little star action. 5 stars would be great. And follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. If you have any ideas on future guests or any insights, feel free to slide right into our DMs on Instagram at currentmood.io. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. It really means a lot.